Hello there everybody, this is Reggie Time for my YouTube channel, and right now we're just playing a couple of tables on Sky Poker. It's Friday night and I've got to a late start tonight because I've been working this evening, so I've only got 2 tables at the minute. It's likely to remain just a 2-table video, but if I have any tables on the side, if I finally get a 3rd or a 4th table running, I will bring any interesting hands in. And to call here just to try and make a flush, I guess, with our diamonds. Dean Nidio min raised pre-flop I called, he bet the flop I called, and then he check raised the turn. Probably just has a good hand. If he's bluffing me off a chop there, then good for him. Hallelujah for him. So a little bit about me for those of you who don't know very much about me. I'm just a micro-stakes poker player. I play anything from 20NL through to 50NL on Sky. I play 30NL Snap AAA, and well, no, I'm not going to talk about poker size because I don't play there often enough. When I do play there, I tend to play at 25NL, but I don't play there enough to consider myself like a regular player there. I'm definitely a recreational player. I'm a winning poker player, but I'm recreational. I don't play professionally, although I do rely on poker as one of my income streams. I've got a regular job. I work part-time for a company that provides adult social care to people with learning disabilities, and I also work with my wife in providing private care to, usually but not exclusively, children with learning disabilities. So I have a very broad scope of interest in my life. Poker is just one of them. I also make videos for Grinder School under the name of Reggie Time, and I have a Skype coaching group, mentoring group, call it what you will, which I'm hoping to talk about at some point during the video, because obviously most of these videos are just promotional content for me and for the work that I do within poker. So I will be talking about it at some point when we get to a point where we haven't got an awful lot else to talk about during the hands, which now seems like it might be as good a time as any. So yeah, with the Skype group, it comes at a cost of just $20 per month. If you were to spend $20, what you would get for that, you would get 1 private mentoring or coaching session with me, 1-to-1, within the calendar month. I also run at least 4, but sometimes up to 8 group coaching sessions per month, where we fire up a Skype group chat, and there may be anything from 2 to 6 or 7 of us just chewing the fat about poker whilst someone either plays or whilst we discuss a bunch of hands that people have sent to me, or we could just have a couple of that kind of an ask me anything type thing, just for people to anything they've had on their mind, any problems they've had, any common situations they've been having that been running into. They're very informal, like more of a hopefully encouraging other group members to get to know each other and then work with each other between sessions with me, and just provide a real community spirit. I think learning poker as part of a group and as a social thing, it adds to the fun of it. I only look to work with recreational players. I don't look to work with people who are wanting to play hundreds of thousands of hands a month. The people who are looking to 4-table Zoom or 3-table Snap or whatever. I'm not really looking to work with those guys because I don't think I'm an appropriate fit for them. I think I'm absolutely a good fit for recreational poker players who want to play quite low volume, or not necessarily want to play low volume, but who are playing low volume, who maybe only have 10 to 20 hours per week to commit to poker, maybe even less than that. And they just want to play poker recreationally but get better at it, and instead of having a hobby that costs them money, like is the case with many recreational players, hopefully give them the skills they need to be able to turn their passion into a profit. That's like the strapline for my website, Reggie Time Poker, turning passion to profit. And that's what I genuinely like to try and help people do. It isn't for everyone what I offer. It is very much a recreational player model. So if you are a recreational player, please do hit me up and just have a think about joining the Skype group for October for $20, and I don't think you'll regret it. And just for the social content alone and for the group sessions, I think it's worth $20. The fact you get to have a private session with a long-term proven winning player at the micro stakes, that just adds value to it, in my opinion. So if you have been thinking about trying to get some help with your game, I don't think you can go too far wrong. And even if it doesn't work out for you and you don't enjoy it, it's just $20. It's not like it's going to cost you like tons and tons on an ongoing basis. So we've got Harry Fry here, who's like a bad aggressive regular. He's just keeping bombing away here. I'm just going to keep calling for the time being. I am a little bit worried we might be beat, but I'm just not going to fold top pair to a player who's got the blue tag. We're going to check back here and just hope to win. And that's why we're not going to fold to the guy with the blue tag. This is why we have tagging systems in poker. The amount of players I see when I watch them play or when I watch videos of other people playing, and they don't have players tagged, and I'm like, how are you supposed to know something about your opponents if you don't tag them, particularly if you're playing on a site like Sky, or if you're playing at Snap Poker on AAA, which doesn't come with a HUD and you can't use a HUD. You have to have some way of identifying the good players. Don't Tell Mum, Kurt in this instance, the moderate players, which no offence but walks, and the weaker players, which is Mace, which is my green tag, and then the really kind of proper recreational gambly type players like Harfy. You need to know your opponent. Poker's a game where knowledge is power, and on sites like Sky where you don't have a HUD, you have no way of tracking your software, no way of tracking your player, which is really good for recreational players. It does prevent them from being ruthlessly exploited by regulars who use HUDs, as like on PokerStars, for example, or AAA or Party Poker. Players who have HUDs, they can ruthlessly exploit. They can find out so much about you so quickly. It takes regulars so much longer to figure you out on Sky. So I mean, it's a pretty recreational player friendly site. But if you're a player like me who's aiming to make a profit on it, and you don't have tracking software because tracking software is banned on the site, you have to use what you see. You have to open your eyes. You have to see things. You have to pay attention to hands that you're not in. You have to see what kind of hands they're playing, how they're playing them, and then tag players accordingly. Because in the land of the one-eyed man, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, isn't it? And we are all in the land of the blind here on Sky at first, and hopefully we can become kings by just having one eye open and just seeing what's going on and doing that better than opponents do. So that's the plan. We're going to call this race here because of Harfy. Kurt's a pretty tight player. Don't expect him to be squeezing too lightly. And not too worried about walks. He's an okay player, but he's not the sort of player that's going to give me too many problems. And I kind of just want to see flops with Harfy. That could have been a good squeeze spot with the King 10 suited. I think on the sites where the players aren't quite as bad as they are on Sky, and we get more fold equity, I think it would have been a good spot to try and squeeze with a hand like King 10, but there's every chance on Sky we're just going to get two callers. Then we're going to be out of position in a significantly bloated pot with a hand like King 10 suited, which is don't get me wrong, it's a pretty enough hand, but it's not the kind of hand you want to be bloating pots with out of position when you're likely to pick up calls. A lot of the benefit of squeezing hands like King 10 suited is that we have some fold equity pre-flop. If we don't have fold equity pre-flop, I think it's much better just to call, take a flop with it, and then go from there. Which is a big difference on Sky to how you would perhaps see people playing their hands on sites that have more regulars and players that are just better at folding, basically. Quickly scanning the lobby, see if we can find a third table. You won't see it on your screen if I do. But hopefully it will just help keep the action flowing. At the minute, it's not looking too great. It's 1:20 on a Saturday morning. This time last week, I was at 4 of the best tables I've seen in a long time. This week, I'm struggling to find 4 tables that are even worth playing. But hopefully some of the regulars start to knock off for the night. They'll start leaving some seats behind at some reasonable tables. That's the hope anyway. I mean, we can't argue with table 1. We just got 4 green tagged players. Table 2 is fine too. We have like Harvey, who's hopefully going to be spreading his £35 around quite nicely, and we have Mace. So we have position on the 2 players that we would hope to have a big advantage on at the table. I wouldn't mind a 3rd table as well if we could find a good one. But at the moment I'm clicking around and there isn't anything presenting itself. But I'd rather just have 2 good tables and give them all my attention than try and join 5 or 6 moderate tables and then not give any of them a proper attention. I'll explain more about that in a moment, because I think it's a point that it's really is worth making. But we want to play this Jack 10 first. I made a pretty big isolation race here because we can either just like make complete for the 10 pence there and then try and see a flop with the hand that plays really well multi-way, or we could try and get heads up. And I tried to get heads up, but we've completely failed on that score and we've completely missed the flop. So that's about that. We're done with that hand. And now, because Harvey isn't playing, we're going to 3-bet the ace jack, and we're going to hope that walks folds. But if he doesn't fold, then at least we've got a reasonable hand that plays pretty well post flop. So it doesn't play pretty well, but it has reasonable showdown by. He's going to flop some good top pairs, etc. It hasn't flopped particularly well on this board. I think we're going to still bet once. Then we can barrel on an ace, barrel on a jack. If we get raised, we're just going to fold. But Wart's going to do a lot of folding here. I think he's going to call with reasonably wide range pre-flop, but not like excessively wide, but a lot of like really marginal stuff. There's just going to be check folding a lot of flops. So the type of player Walks is, he's a little bit stubborn from time to time, but he's not like really loose and bad. It's not like he's going to call with his entire range there. And so hopefully we're going to be on a board as dry as that. We're going to be able to make you fold a lot of stuff that's probably we're ahead of. But nevertheless, stuff we still don't mind in folding when we're at a position. We're happy to just bet there and pick up the pot. Just try and collect the dead money that we've created with the 3-bet pre-flop. That was the idea behind that. I'm just going to let this one go because of Tamin. I kind of thought he would reopen the betting there. I mean, I guess we could have 3-bet as a bluff. But I kind of thought Tamin might reopen the betting there if we just flatted, and it gives him the chance to then just put the 4th bet in, and we have to fold our hand. Right, we've been 3-bet here. Typically, I would fold this. I wouldn't think twice about folding this, but because half is in 2, we just get much better implied odds. We don't necessarily get huge implied odds from Walks. So if he's got a hand like Ace King, he's not necessarily going to dump a full stack on us when we make a set. But Harvey will. If we make a set and Harvey makes top pair, we're just very likely to be able to take most, if not all, of Harvey's money. It's just playing out now. We're looking to. I think Walks would have c-bet if he had an overpair. So I think now I'm going to bet again just to kind of protect my hand here a little bit, get value, I guess, whichever way you want to word it. Just don't want to give any free equity to. Like if they've got 4 overcards between them, I don't just want to allow them another free shot at it. Happy to check back the flop because somebody might be just like trying to set a little trap for me. When it checks back when both players check twice, they've probably just got a combination of like 4 overcards between them or 3 overcards between them or something. And I don't want to just let them realise all that for free. Unfortunately, Harvey's just decided to do something absolutely bonkers and we have to fold. But we want people like Harvey and doing absolutely crazy things. Because it's people like Harvey that we all make our money from. We don't make money from Poker Kinga, who's like he's an aggressive regular. I'm not sure how good he is, but he's an aggressive regular. We don't make money from him. We don't make money from Kurt. We make a little bit from Walks, maybe. We make all of our money almost from people like Harvey being in the pool. And this is what we want to be looking for. When I see like all these players on Sky, and I think they're making fundamental mistakes by Kurt, for example. He'll play every single table he can possibly find. And with all due respect to Kurt, he's not good enough to do that. He's just a real nit. But he's just about getting the job done because there's enough bad players. But I think a lot of Sky regulars get a lot of it wrong. Instead of just playing the best tables they can find and focusing quite hard on them, they would tend to just play every table they can find. And if you're going to play on Sky, in my opinion, volume shouldn't be your driver. Game quality should be your driver. If you want volume, there's better sites for being a high volume player than Sky. Sky's a sort of, in my opinion, the sort of site where you want to be not really focusing on volume and just focusing on finding some really soft opponents and racking up a big win rate. For me, that's what Sky is all about. I think the guys like Kurt, Poker Kinga plays a lot of tables, Don't Tell Mum. I think a lot of those guys are just getting it a little bit wrong. They're probably making reasonable money over the course of the month because of all the rate back they're getting. But I'm pretty sure none of them are winning a ton, because if they were, they wouldn't still be playing these games. If they were winning a ton at the tables and making a ton of rate back, they could potentially be making thousands of pounds a month. People who make thousands of pounds a month move up. They don't continue playing 10 and 20 and L. So I'm presuming some of these guys are like break even or maybe even losing players before rate back, which isn't really the route you want to be taking on Sky. You don't want to be a losing player on Sky pre-rate back. Because if you are a losing player on Sky pre-rate back, you're probably getting plenty wrong at the tables. And plenty wrong away from the tables too. And 20 tables are starting to open up, but it looks like it's the weak players that are quitting currently and not the players that we want to be quitting. So we're still actually only 2 tabling here. What you're seeing right now is exactly what I'm doing. I don't have anything going on off screen at the moment. There's not a chance our 2s are good here, but pots, we're not going to get any bluffs through. Oh wow. The 4-3 and the 3-5, so it's fair to say we can give Dean the green tag too. Wouldn't it be nice to make a hand when someone just does that absolutely bonkers overbet thing? I wonder what the ranges are for doing it. It's really hard. This is a problem with unknown players. Who knows? Harfy and Scout, they might only ever do the big overbet with the nuts. It seems unlikely. I wonder what motivates them to do it. If they have got like a merged range for doing it or a wide range for doing it, I wonder what motivates them to do it at that exact point. I mean, who knows? Maybe they're just pissed. I mean, anything could be happening. I've found a 13L table which I intend to play on the side, and if we get in any fun spots, I shall drag it into the main screen. Make sure it's not going to be too big when we drag it in. Nope, that's all good. At the other table we have 3 green tag players, and then we have Kurt and a player called Clown who's an aggressive regular. So there could be some action at that table. If there is, we'll get it to you. Don't really want to lose this table here on table 1. I think this table is going to demonstrate, or is likely to demonstrate, a lot of the positive aspects of playing on Sky. So I really want to lose that table. typically wouldn't be at table 2 with 3 regulars if it wasn't for Harvey. If Harvey was, say, a green tagged player and he only had, say, £14, I would leave the table. I wouldn't battle 2 regulars and 1 semi-regular over a moderate sort of fish and not a whopping fish. But because I think Harvey's likely to be in poker terms like a huge whale, and when I've got the seat that's directly to his right, sorry, directly to his left, it's something I'm not going to give up too easily. Not looking to go out my way to get involved with Kinga or Kurt. Just hoping to find some good situations against Harvey. Just raise to forex here just to try and make Kinga fold, so we can isolate Harvey. Thing is with Kinga is he's aggressive enough to just start like 3-betting me here because he knows my range for isolating Harvey's going to be quite wide, or at least he should know. Pretty dry board. I think we can check call here against Harvey. I still think we can check call. And I still think we can check call unless he does some silly overbet. I mean, we might have let him in the back door here with some random Jack X or whatever, but we'll see. No. Queen 9, happy days. Fortunately, we're not really finding any premium hands at the moment, because the best way to demonstrate how soft Sky can be is to just make some hands and demonstrate how easy it is to get value bets paid off. That is, for me, what Sky is all about. It's not so much about playing really like good, loose, aggressive poker and battling regulars and doing all the things that you see on lots of other people's poker videos. That's not what you're going to get from me. There's tons of people out there already making those videos, and to be fair, they're a damn sight better at making them and explaining them than I am. What you're going to get from me is how to approach poker as a hobbyist or as a serious recreational player, and hopefully learn how to make it pay and how to turn your hobby into an income stream, which is kind of just what I've done. I've never been a professional player. I've earned lots of money from poker. I've made over 100,000 a lifetime in dollars from poker. So yeah, I'm not going to do myself down. I've done pretty well from the game, but that said, I've never classed myself as a professional. I've always just classed myself as like a serious amateur player, or a serious recreational player, a hobbyist, whatever you want to call it. Looks like we might be about to play a big one with Harvey here. We've got the top pair, we've got the flush draw. I'm just going to call for now. Hopefully keep his bluffs in. Wow. This is going to be grim if he puts a bomb in, great big bet in here. He doesn't. I'm very worried about walks his call. So even though we have decent equity here, I don't necessarily think we have a lot of fold equity against hands that are better than us. And I think there's plenty of better hands than ours out there. So we're going to just take our free card here and not let the pot get too big. We could have raised and tried to get it all in against Harvey on the flop, knowing we have decent equity. But I think that would have been somewhat spewy and unnecessary. And we might just have the best hand here with our top pair. I think walks is most likely to win this pot though. I think he's going to have a slightly better race than us. He just had the flush draw. Wowee. We could have got a lot of money. Well, we couldn't have got a lot of money in that flop, because Harvey was just going to fold his pocket threes, wasn't he? It can be tempting to overplay in those situations sometimes. When we flop a pair and a flush draw, it's like super excited to do that. But typically when you get your money in those spots, you're doing fine. But that's all you're doing. You rarely get it in absolutely crushing someone's range. If we get it in there, we're going to usually get it in against a better race, and then we've still got 12 outs, which is really good, of course. And I had to try and get it in a little bit hold'em with when I've got my foot on people's throat. When I've got the the 80 and 90% equity. I'm not looking to get my money in as like a coin flip and fight over some dead money. I'm looking to get my money when I've got my foot right on someone's throat, and I've got them drawing nearly dead, and that's very possible on Sky. I'm not going to try and see bet bluff Dean here. That kind of board is the kind of board where I think we're going to get not too many folds. He's not going to fold too many middle pairs. He's not going to fold that over cards. There's tons of draws he can have, etc. So I'm just going to give up with Deanie in this spot. We're looking forward to squeezing here if Deanie puts the call in. He's put the 3-bet in. We don't really want to be going multi-way in this spot, so we're going to put the call 4-bet in. And at this point, we're just going to call it off. If Deanie was to shove on us, we'd obviously we'd have no chance to call it off. Unfortunately, Halfy has just gone broke on table 2, just as we pick up 2 queens as well, which is annoying on 2 scores. Number 1, it's annoying that Halfy's gone broke. Number 2, it's annoying that we pick up pocket queens the very next hand. So we're just going to sit out of this table now, and we'll bring the other table in. This is really annoying against Deanie because it's second time now with 3-bet him. Second time we've completely bricked. We just have to learn and just keep our discipline and not spew money against him. It's going to feel a lot of the time like these players are just going to run us over when we go through situations where we just keep missing flops, etc. But that just really isn't the case. We're not getting run over. Just, we need to show against bad players. The way we usually beat them is to just show them a hand. We might still have the best hand. It seems unlikely to me. Well, we have to pay this off because we're getting such a good price. I don't expect to win here very often at all. But I don't think we can afford getting this price. And we have the same hand. So we'll get rid of that table now, and we'll bring this one in, and we'll tail them. Again, this table isn't great. Macca's, he's tagged green. He's between green and orange. He's mostly a tournament player. It's good that Clown's just left. Clown's like a really aggressive regular that I don't particularly enjoy having to my left. So it's good that he's left. Theo Omega don't know very much about at all. Kurt, as we talked about before, is just a nit. I just stay out of his way. When he's in a pot, I tend not to be. Probably check call against Macca here for at least 1 bet. That is a big bet he's made though. It's the same size on the turn. It's typically a sizing tell that someone's hand strength hasn't improved from the flop to the turn. So I'm going to make a race here and just try and make him fold some kind of slightly better hands than ours, like 5x, 4x, things like that. And the reason I did that is a tell that a lot of players. I've got a friend. He won't thank me for saying this, but he's got that exact tell, and the tell is, and the sizing is just a sizing tell, and it's not. It might not be the same with Macca. Macca might not have it, although it appears that he does. It's when people make a bet on the flop, and on the turn they make virtually the same size bet on a card that isn't great for their range. It's usually a good indication that their hand hasn't improved from the flop to the turn, and usually it means that they're kind of reasonably weak. they're not completely weak. You know, I suspect that Maka there maybe had a 5 or a 4, and he just didn't want to give initiative. But if people display those kind of tells, I like to try and go after them at first when I first see them being displayed, just to see what's going on. Because if somebody does have that kind of tell, that kind of sizing issue with their game, then we need to know, and we need to be looking to exploit it. This tables really are great tonight. For you guys, if you want to see just how great Sky tables can be, if you go back and look at my video I made last week, I think it was called Friday Night's Alright, something like that. That was one of the most bonkers poker, clowns back. That was one of the most bonkers poker sessions I played in a very, very long time. It was absolutely insane. These tables are nowhere near as good tonight. I'm not saying they're bad, because they're not bad. We got green players, but they're nowhere near as good as they were last week. And that kind of is one of the downsides of Sky. You really are quite often just at the mercy of that variance on the game quality. The game quality on most sites is pretty stable. It is what it is. For example, 15L Zoom, it's always tough. It's never an easy pool. And then say 4L Sky, it's always soft. It's always an easy pool. But in these like kind of upper micro stakes on Sky 20 through 50, it can vary from night to night because you always have the same collection of regulars. There's maybe 15 to 20 regulars that prop the games right through those limits. And then you're very dependent on, you know, if there's maybe only 4 or 5 or 6, maybe even 10, maybe 10 fish kicking around across 20 tables, then the value of being on Sky that night is nothing. The value just isn't there. Because if you want to play on tables with 5 regulars and 1 semi-fish, or, you know, play across 5 or 6 tables with maybe just 4 fish on them across the 6 tables, then you can get that on any site you want. So you don't need to be on Sky for that. The benefit of Sky is that quite often you can get 4 to 6 tables that are really, really good. And tonight just isn't one of those nights, and that's the problem. It might be in an hour's time that all the regulars go to bed and just leave 4 or 5 tables that are just stock full of non-regular players. Like this table now with Maka, it's just not worth playing. So we might be ending the video soon. Let's go by the second table, because I'm not going to fight 3 regulars over Maka. Maka's not enough of a bad player for me to want to fight 3 regulars over him for. We'll keep the table going in the short term whilst I try and find a better table, because I don't really want to end the video yet. So I'll try and find a better table. I'll give it 5 minutes. And I think we might have found a 20-0 table already that's going to be better than it. We're not going to 3-bet Sean. They're Dean here because he's shown a propensity to not fold. So I'd rather just try and make a hand against him and keep 3-betting him with like reasonably light hands. I mean, Ace Jack off isn't like a light 3-bet, not by any stretch of the imagination, but he's going to miss a lot. And then if we're going to 3-bet hands that are going to miss a lot against players that don't fold a lot, then we're just storing up a lot of problems for later in the hand. And that's a point of view that will drive some regulars absolutely nuts. I understand that. But I play these games the longest time, and there's nothing more frustrating than continuing to 3-bet players like Dini with like high cards, continually having them call and be in position on you, and just like miss that 70% of the time, like you're going to do when you've just got 2 overcards, especially unsuited overcards. So you're not even that likely to flop a decent draw with them. They can be aggressive with. So I tend to just be a lot more cally than a lot of regulars are pre-flop in these types of games. If you catch me playing on Snap or on Zoom, I'm nowhere near as cally. I'm pretty doing what everyone else is doing a lot more 3-bet or folding pre-flop. But in these games, I'm happy to just call and be out of position with hands like Ace Jack against people like Dini, and just keep pot small post flop, pre-flop, and then just try and bloat them post flop if and when I make a hand, and just rely on the fact that people like Dini will just pay me off when they have a second best hand against me. That's a really good turn card against Mecca, so we're going to keep betting. That's not a good river. He's got so much Jack X in his range here for calling twice. We're just going to check fold here. He's too thin, I think. We just need to check fold. It's really quite frustrating. And there isn't an awful lot that we can do about this. It's just been a terrible run out. The turn card was good, but the river card's really bad. All kinds of better two pairs, all kinds of straights and that. Just everything you can think of's got there. So let's be disciplined and just give it up and allow ourselves to be slightly frustrated. We're going to sit our next big blind at this table though. You won't catch me playing bad tables on Sky. I'd rather have two tables, like I was talking about earlier. I'd rather have two tables or three tables that are really good than have 6 tables, 2 of which are good and 4 of which are moderate. I'd rather be able to put maximum attention into 2 really good tables and have a win rate of maybe 15 big blinds per 100 because the table's really good, than have 6 tables going and reduce my win rate down to 2 or 3 blinds per 100 or 4 blinds per 100. And then have a similar hourly, but just not feel as if I'm playing as well. I want to feel like I'm playing good poker. And I'd rather have low volume, high win rate and have a decent hourly that way than have a low win rate, high volume and have it that way. It appeals to me more to go down the low volume, high win rate route. Not for everybody, I fully understand that, but I think it's a route that there's tons of recreational players that they don't even consider it because they just go to the forums and the constant narrative is you've got to play 100,000 hands to see if you're a winning player. You've got to play 200,000 hands. You've got to play 500,000 hands, etc., etc., etc. They see that and they just start chasing or playing a style that just isn't going to suit a working man with a job and a family and all these things. He just wants to play poker 1 or 2 hours a night later on in the night when his kids are gone to bed and or when whatever reasons he gets time to play. He doesn't have time to put the 100,000 hand months in, but he's still trying to do it. And there's another way for those types of people, and hopefully I'll be the person that can guide you down that path if you do decide to give my mentoring service a whirl. Then I would just got the 2 tables of 20. Now this is typically how my sessions will quite often go. I would just be oscillating between 2 and 4 tables of hopefully weak players. Some nights, we can play and we can not do too great. We can just have a couple of tables running, have nothing much good happen. And lose a tenner here, lose a tenner there, what have you. And then you'll have the great nights that come along where you just win £100 a couple of times a week or whatever, and you've just got to be there waiting and being prepared to accept that you're not going to get to the long run as quickly as some of your higher volume brethren, but you're hopefully going to enjoy poker more than they do and hopefully going to move up quicker than they are because you're going to be more focused. If you're playing, say, with a win rate of 1, 2 or maybe even a negative win rate or break-even win rate and you're relying on stars coins or rewards for your rate back, you need to have a huge bankroll because you can have some enormous swings. If you play and you game select well and you have a expected win rate of 10 or plus big blinds per 100, you can be a little bit more cavalier with your bankroll management, and that's not to encourage anyone to be reckless. But if I was playing 25 and L Zoom and I was pushing a 2 big blind 100 win rate, I would want to have maybe 50 buy-ins, just to make sure I was never going to go broke. I was very, very, very low risk of ruin. If I was playing 20-0 on Sky and game selecting well, and just playing 2 to 4 tables, I'd be happy to play that game off 400 quid. You know, of just 20 buy-ins, or maybe even 300 quid. You know, I'd be really tempted to, and confident that I could take some quite aggressive shots. And that's what I try and encourage people to do, but in a controlled way, not in a really, really reckless way. I want to know that someone's winning first. You know, I want to know that they're winning really hard before I suggest that they are quite aggressive with their bankroll management. But once we've established that, yep, it's very likely that with your game selection techniques in your game where it is, you're going to be a winning player, then on Sky, we want to be trying to play as high as possible, as quickly as possible. Deeney folds here, we'll be shoving any turn, of course. He does fold. If Shuz jams, we call. If Shuz doesn't jam, we jam. Oh, we don't jam, but we put Shuz all in. He's got a few more outs than I would have liked, and he gets there with the steel wheel. Straight flush to the 5. Happy days. Kurt folds to a ridiculous amount of 3-bets. I'd love to know what his number is. I mean, we have to 3-bet him here, of course. But I'm almost reticent to, because I think he's just going to fold a bunch, which is obviously not great when we have 2 kings. And he does just fold, and that's really quite annoying. Getting pocket kings against someone like Kurt, who's got pretty tight opening ranges, and it's pretty common knowledge in Sky Poker circles that he's just like an excessive nit. I mean, if we were to have a 4 to 3-bet start on Kurt, I would say it'd be into the 70s, I would say. And that's from somebody who's got really tight ranges to begin with. He's not the person you really want to be getting kings against, because he's usually just either going to 4-bet you with aces, call with stuff like queens and jacks, ace, king, and then just fold pretty much everything else, I would imagine. In a lot of ways, he makes me proud, because I'm a nit too. But Kurt takes nittery to the next level. Maybe he could have considered just calling there, actually. Because they're just so rarely going to get really good action from him. I'm really distressed with the quality of these games tonight. It's quite saddening on a Friday night that we can't get many really good tables on Sky Poker. A little bit worried about Khan, he's just jamming here. But we know Kurt's not going to squeeze light. We know Gaby's like a blue tag. And Bad Girl's got the green tag. So I'm happy to play the Queen 10 off in this situation. Especially happy when we're going to flop trips with it. Obviously no reason to raise here. We're going to hope Gaby comes along too. And what's we know on Gaby? That note would imply he's quite passive, so we're not going to try some elaborate trap. We're just going to bet for clean value. And we should have bet slightly more, because now we're slightly overbetting the river, which is annoying, but we're going to go for it anyway. And we could make a case for checking there, because like flush draws and misses, not very much he can call with. But he's got the blue tag, so we're just going to hope he's just sort of guy who just isn't into folding one pair there. I think we could maybe make an argument for checking, even though we've already said that we think Garvey is passive based on the note that we had. Now, passive players do sometimes tend to bluff if they have been chasing a draw that's missed. But I think it's just way more likely he just had some kind of like weak made hand there. And we're just calling on a reasonably dry board. Yeah, there was a flush draw out there, but you know, it was still a pretty dry flop. Tagging can reads as a green player. Well, that's it. Unknown players that I see sitting with less than 100 big blinds, I typically tag as green to begin with, and then that maybe alters sometimes as evening goes on. Very rare someone who's only sat with 30 blinds will ever be upgraded from a green tag, but it's happened from time to time. It might just be a bust or regular. Or a bust or bad regular, should I say. Seems unlikely, but it could be. We have a top pair on my hand off the table. We just called a race from Theo Meg. We're just going to keep calling down while he makes his small bets. If he bombs, I'm probably just going to fold. He's triple barrels here. I don't see very much that I'm going to be able to beat, so I'm just going to let it go. The top pair with a weak kicker. Unless I have a reason to believe someone's pretty aggressive, I don't very often call triple barrels with just top pair. Especially when he did the slight reverse tell that we talked about earlier, where he went smallish, and a little bit bigger. Again, that's something that, in my experience, is indicative of somebody who starts to like their hand a little bit more the further into the hand that they get. So whereas my hand hasn't improved, it looks like maybe he's improved somewhat. And if he continues using that sizing, eventually we're going to find a spot where we're going to be able to look him up, and once we get to look him up, we can figure out a lot more. But if we need to do is get to showdown against a lot of these players, a lot of these unknown players, because we need to figure out what the hell they're doing. We can't just go to showdown with all kinds of weak hands just to get the read, just to get to showdown. But we do need to get to showdown with them, or when they get to showdown with other players, go ahead and look at what's been going on, pull the hand history up, have a look what happened. Because as we talked about earlier, we don't have any stats, so the only information we have is the stuff we've got to go looking for ourselves. Not the best of turn cards against Dini, because it's probably going to price us into call one more bet, unless he bombs it. If it's around half pot, I think we're going to have to call. I don't like it, but I think we have to call here. The thing is, we're not getting paid on an ace. 10's no good to us. Sorry, king's no good. We're not getting paid on a 9. We might get paid on a 9, actually. We just made 2 pair, but it's not a 2 pair that I'm particularly thrilled about. I mean, my hand's absolute strength has improved, but my hand's relative strength has definitely got a lot weaker. And we're happy just to see it go check and pick up the pot. Let's see what he had there. So he decided not to bluff with an absolute airball, which is interesting. call here against Kurt, mostly because of Garvey. I expect Kurt to be ahead of us pre-flop. He might not be anymore. I don't like calling Kurt c-bet here, but again, we can't just flop top pair, top kicker and fold to 1 c-bet. I don't care how tight somebody is. If he barrels a turn, we're just going to let it go. Against Kurt, that's such a trivial fold against Kurt. He's just so rarely putting chips in a pot that when he does, you can usually just get out of his way and play very exploitably against him. It's a spot where you're going to overbet against 2 players on this kind of board texture. Definitely get tons of calls from worse hands. Wow. 10-8, really? I guess if you've got the 10-8 buddy, you're going to get all my money. That's the way we're looking at here. With Garvey, if he jams, it's very likely he does have the 10-8. But we just can't fold top 2 pair in this type of game. And he does have the 10-8, unfortunately. But we bought up and happy days. Don't feel particularly good about needing to suck out on a blue tagged player. But then there's like 10-8 and pocket 7s, the only hands he can really have that I'm worried about. He can have tons of draws, tons of just top pair, you know, just be like Jack, King, Queen, Jack, King, Ace, Jack. There's just way too many hands a player like Garvey can have there, passive or not. Way too many hands he can just be overplaying there that we're just miles ahead of. The fact he's got the 10-8, it's just like whatever. It's a little bit annoying, but at the same time, against his range, we just have to get it in there. When he plays a blue tag for a reason, we have top 2 pair against a blue tag. The money just has to go in. And if we're cooled, well, we're cooled. JTM's been getting it all in quite a lot with 3-betting twice now in short order. So, obviously a trivial call. We get it in really good. Bit of justice here if JTM sucks out. Which he does. So, there you go. We're just in both sides of the variance coin. So, that's why I don't care when I suck out in spots like this, because we get sucked out on plenty the other way around too. So you've just got to get on with it and accept that there's an awful lot of random nonsense goes on in poker that you can't control. So when you're on the bad side of it, don't sulk, don't be a baby. Just get on with it. When you're on the good side of it, don't feel too bad about yourself, because kind of what goes around comes around. That's a takeaway from it. Wow, shows I was going to be contemplating maybe calling there if he'd bet again. How passive was that? This is why I don't like paying off in these games too, because on Sky, wow, bad girl GY. Just Snapchat, it's just Snapchat seats on me, I think they have, haven't they? Bad girl GY going for the Jesus seat on me. That is could be an new all-time poker law. Could be a new law. A call with the Queen 10 in position against Kurt, hoping that JTM or Shuz comes along. We're behind to Kurt almost unquestionably. I can't think of too many hands in Kurt's range that we're ahead of. But we do have Shuz, we have JTM, and we have a very playable hand. And if Kurt's just got his small pairs, we're going to be out playing with those post-flop quite a lot of the time. Not even sure that he opens small pairs under the gun, but if he does, we got reasonable equity. That's a good flop. I expect Kurt to check for the reasonable amount here, and he just does, which is unfortunate, but that's just what Kurt does. He's a very, 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 very face-up player. He's renowned for it. People know it. I've seen people talk about it at the table in front of him while they're at the table. So he must be aware of his image to his regular opponents, and he doesn't give a shit. He almost plays like a bot. In fact, I would say he does play like a bot. No, there's no almost about it. And I'm not accusing him of being a bot for a second. I don't believe he's a bot. But I believe he's just got very, very, very rigid standards. So he just doesn't move away from very often, which is kind of what you have to have if you're going to play as many tables as Kurt does. Kurt plays like 16 tables nearly all the time. So if you're going to do that on a site like Sky, you just quite simply have to have 95, if not more than that, of your game completely standardised. Otherwise, you just have no chance. If you're trying to make loads of decisions on the run, there's going to be too much going on for you. We have to call here. We're almost certainly going to lose, but we're in a ridiculously good price. Wow, it's the second time. So, slow play, premiums, pre times 2. That's just so I'm aware in future situations that he is capable of having hands that you wouldn't expect him to have. Liam Boyce 4x under the gun. We're going to let the King Queen off go against that. We met Liam before in previous videos. I think he's a solid regular. Loves to moan. You do love to, if Liam's watching this, he'll know it himself. He loves to moan about how shit he runs. But he is a solid regular. I'd rather not see Liam at my tables, but, you know, at the same time, he seems like a nice guy, and usually he's pretty conversational, so I like seeing him in terms of that he makes one or two table, he needs someone to chat with. It's a bit of a social thing too, but in terms of just my bottom line, I would expect it's better when Liam isn't at the tables than it is when Liam's at the tables. And that's not because I think Liam's got an edge on me. I don't think Liam, excuse me, beats me. I don't necessarily think I beat Liam. What I mean by my edge is reduced is it's just another good player there that's going to just like, when Liam's not here, Kurt and I have these two players between us. When Liam comes, all of a sudden we have to share with a third decent player. So obviously our win rate's going to come down because of it. And some regulars will affect my win rate more than others because they'll be better at stacking the weaker players than others. Darryl, the yellow means we're super weak tight. Very rare a player gets tagged yellow. So we flop the nut flush draw against someone who limp called. So we're making a decent sized bet. And we get called. I'm not going to barrel the turn. The 7's, it slots nicely into a lot of his calling range on the flop. And crucially, not only that, it also doesn't really bring me much forward equity against a 9 or a jack. Try 3-bet bluffing Kurt this time. Without ace-8. If we think he folds too much, then 3-betting him and stuff like that's going to be a good thing to do. He doesn't bet again. I don't think he has a jack. I think he would lead a jack on the river most of the time. I don't know anything about David, but I think most players would lead a jack on this river. So we're just going to bet to try and make him fold some pairs and what have you. Wouldn't be the biggest surprise to see him check raises here, but I'm going to get tons of check folds, which does me just fine. We might just have like bluff with the best hand there, but if I think someone's weak, I don't like leaving it to chance and leaving it to showdown. If I think I can make somebody fold, I'll typically just try and make them fold. So table 2's now is going a little bit rubbish, a little bit sour, but we've played for nearly an hour, so I'm probably going to stop the recording in a moment and maybe even stop my session for the night. It's not been the best of nights in terms of game quality, but yeah, I think we've got some decent content. We've covered off some good subjects, and yeah, just if you have made it to this part of the video, please do consider joining our Skype community. For $20 a month, you will get a good return on your investment. You can almost be certain of it. But yeah, we'll finish playing this King 10 out against JTM. We've kind of got a pretty big hand on the turn. And that's going to be just about that. We'll just take a flop against David to make sure something interesting doesn't happen. It doesn't, David just limp raises. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do want to get in touch with me about getting any help with your game, or you just have any questions and you don't particularly want to pay me, but you've got any questions, please reply in the Facebook group, please reply in the YouTube channel, on Reddit, anywhere. Just leave a comment, and I always check them all. So yeah, you will get a response. But for now, we'll leave it there, and I wish you all a great weekend, and take care, and bye for now.